Continuing on, number 4, how IFTA works. Yay! You have your IFTA license and decals. But now what? What are the next steps? IFTA consists of 2 elements, distance traveled and fuel purchased. Distance and fuel are referred to as the source data. This data is collected by the driver. We'll get more into details about source documents when we are into the lesson, the IFTA processes, in other courses which we'll be offering. Let's talk about the first element, distance traveled. Now, we're keeping this simple for illustrative purposes, so we're going to use an example of a single round trip from San Francisco, California to Salt Lake City, Utah, down to Riverside, and then back to San Francisco. Total distance on this trip, 1,840 miles. Let's break that down. Here are the totals by jurisdiction for this trip. Now you can see that California has the highest percentage of distance traveled at 45.76%. Now Arizona only has less than 2% of the travel, and then Nevada and Utah make up the rest of the distance for 100%. Now we have to talk about fuel, the second element. On this trip, the driver purchases 200 gallons of fuel in Nevada and 200 gallons in Arizona. Now, it's important to note that no fuel was purchased in either California or Utah. So at this point, only 2 jurisdictions have received tax, and that's Nevada and Arizona. Total fuel purchased on this trip, 400 gallons. IFTA looks at distance and fuel together. And even though the driver traveled almost 46% of his distance in California, he bought no fuel there. And even though he traveled only 2% of his distance in Arizona, Arizona got paid for 200 gallons of fuel, the tax on that, which is 50% of the fuel purchased. So herein is the reason that IFTA exists, to distribute the tax fairly based on the fuel consumed, calculated by distance traveled in each jurisdiction. Here is the IFTA operating principle. Fuel tax owed is calculated based on where you consume fuel. The tax credit is determined by where you purchased the fuel. And IFTA nets the difference between fuel consumed and fuel purchased for each jurisdiction. Here's your good to know. Once a vehicle has been assigned an IFTA decal, it's considered to be a reportable unit. That means every single mile and every single gallon of fuel is reported. Yes. Even personal travel, trips to the repair shop, test drive, you name it. Reportable means reportable. No IFTA decal, no problem. Don't report the distance or fuel on your return. Okay, we're going to talk in our next lesson about calculating consumption.